I don't really tell you guys what to do. Get this book, memorize it. This is the cover. Go read the series. I don't care that it's middle grade. I don't care that you're an adult, that you're too cool for school. Read this book. Start with Nevermore, end with Wondersmith. Except for tell you what to read. I do that pretty often, especially if it's Nevermore. However, I don't really share a lot of my personal opinions on BookTube. And a lot of people see this as a flaw, and I totally get that. I try and do a lot of active listening, and in doing that, one of the side effects is definitely not being able to speak and always get my opinion or word out there. A lot of the time, it's not that my opinion doesn't matter to me, it's that my opinion's constantly forming and changing, and if I don't feel really strongly secure in a subject, then I'm not going to state my opinion, because my opinion might very well change. I think opinion gets brought up as fact, and so a lot of the time my opinion doesn't get heard, and that's okay with me. If I feel my opinion needs to be heard, I will speak up. But often that's not the case, and I'm okay with that too. It's also okay if you have a lot of opinions and you really want to speak up about a lot of them. This is not a video being like, shh. This is more of a video being like, this is why I don't share my opinions very much. It's me opening up a little bit. I'm actually pretty terrified to do this video. It's kind of like a discussion video, which who does that? Not me. And it's a way of promoting active listening, which as a teacher, I really, really value and rely on. Active listening is difficult. I feel like a lot of people don't know how to actually listen. And by listen, I don't mean that they have to audibly physically hear. I want to make that really clear. This goes for any kind of communication you have with a person in which you're getting words across. So I want to make that clear too. This does not have to be verbal communication. But when I'm using the word hearing, I'm really meaning that I'm talking about listening, and listening, I really mean understanding. Understanding what another person is saying, taking it in fully, and doing something with it. Now, I'm not gonna throw a whole bunch of science facts at you, because that's just not who I am. There are facts out there. I highly recommend you look into them, but I will say that we are thinking and hearing much faster than we communicate. So when you are listening to your friend tell a really massive, detailed, off-the-rails story, you're probably only getting about half of it. And then you try and trap that in your brain because now you have to say something back. Hopefully, unless you decide to not say anything back, in which case I don't know how that conversation is going for you. So what happens with the extra time you have while you're listening to that? If your brain is working that much faster than that person speaking, what are you doing with your time? I can say personally for me, I'm usually spacing off. I'm multitasking, doing something else entirely, some sort of mundane task as I listen, introspecting, deciding what I am going to say next, how the words that are coming to me will affect me, and often I'm also getting ready to interject. Me too. Oh yeah, same here. So what seems to get in the way of active listening has been highly studied. This is not my epiphany or anything like that. This is things that I've learned, things that I've picked up, things that I've read, telling me this information. Some of the reasons why we struggle with listening in the first place is, first off, it's not taught. Listening is usually not taught until college. If in college, it's usually not a required course. Listening should begin when you're young. And I'm not talking about hearing, being told what to do, and then complying. I'm talking about actually being able to understand and comprehend all of the information that's being thrown at you when you're in kindergarten and first grade. What are you doing? You're trying to listen, you're hearing or getting pieces of it, but you're not able to fully understand. And that's because we don't teach active listening to young kids. And I think that's a problem. My point is to kind of give some tips on how I try and active listen, because while I am absolutely terrible at listening, I do try and practice active listening, because at the end of the day, I'm a teacher, and if I'm not able to hear and understand what my students are trying to say, then I'm kind of failing them. So here's some other things that get in the way. First off, the assumptions. Assumptions that you already know what's being talked about, that you already know what's being said, or that you already know the individual. You have them down. I'd like to challenge this with saying people are usually pretty darn complex. I don't even fully know myself, so the idea that someone else thinks they know me well enough to judge what my next word I'm going to say is pretty astonishing. So to assumptions, I say challenge it with curiosity. Go in with the vulnerability of realizing you probably don't know every single piece of what you're about to hear or understand. You might not know this person, you might find out something significant as you listen. Go in with with curiosity. The next part is an arrogance about the situation, that it doesn't apply to you, the information being thrown at you is not relevant. Me deciding that my experiences declare yours irrelevant is a little bit arrogant. Instead, I try and practice thinking about what the person means to me. Whoever is speaking has a relevance in the conversation because they are relevant. They're valid. So I try and pay attention to that and kind of unfocus from myself. So even if my experience is not relevant, their experience is. Then finally, there's a risk factor in listening. I know that a lot of people don't even want to listen to the fact that they aren't listening. Like, nobody wants to hear that. I don't want to hear that, and I do it all the time. So like, I hear it a lot. There's a lot of risk and a lot of vulnerability that goes into listening to someone. When you're choosing to listen to someone else's perspective, you're risking discomfort, you're risking guilt, and you're risking fear of judgment because it takes a lot of vulnerability to actually listen. Instead, I am promoting both understanding and courage here. I get it. There's a lot of times where the reason I'm not speaking isn't because I don't have an opinion. It's because I've listened to someone else's and it's made me uncomfortable. It's made me fearful and it's made me question. I get it. I understand. I do it all the time, way too often. However, I think that there is a really strong courage in deciding to live with that discomfort and in being vulnerable. It is definitely difficult. I'm not telling you to go out and it's easy, be vulnerable. I'm telling you that I understand and that you can really get some amazing experiences out of being courageous and living in that discomfort in that moment and in that person's moment. Because what they're saying is important. And if you listen, you might end up being more comfortable in yourself after you've taken time to go through the information. So while I can say a side effect is that I don't always get my word in when I want to, I can also say another side effect is I do actively listen to you guys better. I listen to a lot of discussions on BookTube, on Twitter. I'm listening and I'm taking in and I'm understanding a lot more than I was before. I still, all the time, blather on and on. I interject, I interrupt, I say, what? Constantly. But I just thought I'd share some ways that I am trying to change that. And if this applies to you, I hope that maybe this helps you. If it doesn't apply to you, then thanks for listening. In the end, I really just wanted to get my word out there because I do feel really strongly about active listening. If you have anything to say on this topic, or you feel like you have other tips, tricks, or even disagree, I'm happy to have a discussion. Please go ahead and leave your comments down below. If you liked this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, go ahead and leave. You don't have to click that dislike button. It kind of makes me sad. And finally, I hope you guys are enjoying the sun or more stars wherever you are, and until next time, bye! Come on, you can come too! Sorry, I couldn't listen to anything else but my cat for a second there. My camera decided to stop listening to me, so it turned off.